Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. Today, we are here today as just the two of us. If you're looking at via the social media stream, you'll see my producer, John B. in the place to be. John, give a shout out.
Hello, hello.
And yours truly. So today we're going to get back to some of the normal conversations that we've been having. But we're interested in really getting into a conversation. When we were at the end of our last show, which I thought was a really good conversation, we, Mark Bassett, our infamous man in disguise, who is taking care of business on today, so he cannot be with us.
He's in disguise because he gets more and more tan every time we see him.
I was wondering if it was just me. Like, you can tell that the Florida sunshine is sunshining because he is getting more and more tan. But he brought up a conversation on last week that I want to kind of just jump into a little bit. And it was really surrounded around the idea of family makeup, the importance of family, and the role that family plays in, I don't know if we say success and failure or support, all of those things. We're going to talk about that. But before we do that, it has, we just had a great weekend. I did absolutely nothing. I had this, that's what I'm going to call it.
That's bad for a pastor on Easter weekend to have.
Yeah. I had that's what we're going to call it. And it was like something came and sat on my chest, like a small child just sat on my chest. And it was hard to breathe. Initially, I was like, this is what COVID feels like. I shared with you all before that I had COVID 4 times in the height of the pandemic when everyone was, oh my gosh, you're going to get COVID. I had it 4 times. And
I had it a couple months ago.
I never had symptoms, not one single time, not a single symptom. But what would happen is that the people that were around me got really, really sick. And I'm like, wait a minute, we were just sitting there breathing on each other. So there's no way that I can't have it. And when I get tested, I had COVID. So I was very isolated. But anyways, so I did not have COVID. And so I was concerned because of the heaviness, a little bit of wheezing and the breathing and things of that nature. So I went in to the doctor and got tested. I'm thinking he's going to say, yo, it's pneumonia. You got walking pneumonia because people have been saying that's going around. And there's this other gunk funk thing that's been happening. So I was waiting for the diagnosis. And this is what he tells me. Are you ready? He goes, with your age, you're experiencing, everything starts off
with your age.
With your age.
Yep.
Like, what the heck? With your age, you're experiencing just an extreme amount of seasonal allergy. I feel like I'm dying over here. Like,
happy spring.
I was like, allergies? And what do you mean with your age? He's like, as you get, older, your allergies sometimes, the response your body has gets a little worse. But he says, your signs and what I see when I look at your throat, the back of your throat, is a perfect picture of the road to really getting a really bad sinus infection. So the back of my throat is inflamed. There's lumps on there and potholes and all that other stuff. He said a road. And so I'm being colorful. So I
always.
I'm always a little bit colorful. But anyways, so that's what it was. And so, but he looked in my ears and he's like, you're retaining a ton of water in your ears. And so we got a whole checkup, and so I'm okay. I'm living. So I'm on a ton of nasal sprays, drips, all kinds of things going on. But we're on the mend, so I'm glad because I was sounding like I had eaten rocks in the little Tyco cars. Remember the little Tyco cars? Is that called die-cast metal? I mean, the little cars.
Oh, yeah.
The little cars. Was it called die-cast metal?
I don't know.
Because in my mind, do you ever have these things where you think about something and you be like, oh, this is, and you think that you remembered something.
And you think that you're making sense, but nobody knows what you're talking about.
Right.
I've had that before.
So what I was just getting ready to tell you, like, I felt like I was eating these little cars made of die-cast metal. Then I thought to myself, like, nobody ever understands what I'm talking about when I say die-cast metals. I'm like, weren't Tyco cars made of die-cast metal?
Do you know what that feels like? Have you eaten those cars? Is that
As a kid, I tried.
Oh.
Yeah, so I tried as a kid. There's a lot of stuff that I ate. I'm sure if I took an X-ray, I'd probably see keys in there.
Yeah.
I used to eat drywall.
Oh.
I don't get it. Drywall, fabric starch, just all kinds of things going on in this body. But anyways, I am on the mend. I feel so much better. I'm still not there, so you're still getting a little bit of that lower bass
Radio voice.
radio voice going
Yeah.
on there. But anyways, that's what's happening. But I want to get back to our conversation, Jonathan. But I'm thinking about. I don't want to just talk about my weekend. I'm
Yeah.
sure you had nothing exciting happen
Well,
this weekend.
it's funny you had shortness of breath and all that symptoms and stuff. I had a very brief bout of shortness of breath and some little tremors, maybe a little bit.
Tremor, shortness of breath.
Tremors, shortness of breath. It was very scary. But it was when I got down on one knee and proposed to my girlfriend, and she said yes on Sunday.
We need a button that says dun, 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 dun. So Jonathan is now Jonathan the engaged man, and I'm not going to embarrass him too much, but John, this has been in the works.
Yeah.
You're a fast mover. It didn't take long for you to make a decision that this is what you're going to do.
It's been almost 11 months.
11 months. All right. So
she thought it was going to come at the 1 year mark next month.
Okay.
That's when she thought it was
So
coming.
next month is May.
May 14th is a year.
May 14th. And you remember. Congratulations, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Let's give it up for Jonathan out there in social media world. But, Jonathan, you want to talk about conversations of race in America. This is so funny because me and my friends always said that white dudes get married so quick. Like, she's it. Let's get married. I love it.
I've got white friends that have been together with their girlfriend for years and years and haven't proposed.
But, Jonathan, I think on a regular basis, like, all of my friends were like married, like seems like 3 days out of high school.
There were a lot of those that I had
Real
friends
quick.
with.
I mean, most of them are divorced now and trying again for the second or the third time. But I think, and I'm curious as to what our social media viewers are thinking as well. But I think that there is a real difference in how white folks and black folks approach marriage.
Probably.
I mean, honestly, I think that many of my white friends that I've seen, they had no quorums whatsoever about, hey, we did this, get married. Now, if they made it through college and they were dating whoever they were dating when they got out of college, that's who they married. And I see many of my black friends, and this is not just men, but both men and women making that decision, like, we're going to see. And they're, a bit more discerning, I guess, if that's the question, but tending to take a much longer time to get married. I mean, yours truly included. Not that there hasn't been an interest or a desire or, I'll be honest, I've bought a couple of rings. Like, I was at that step, but then made a decision and a turn to go somewhere very differently. But that is an interesting phenomenon, if you would, that I see happening in white America. White America really embraces or has embraced, like in my lifetime, the idea of like, hey, I like you. We've dated for 11 months. Let's get married.
And my knee-jerk reaction to that is divorce has become so prevalent. It's like, where's the actual commitment in marriage? So, of course, you're going to get married quick. But you look back a few generations, and it was even quicker. Like, it takes longer now for white people to get engaged, I think. Like,
it doesn't take longer. We take longer.
Yeah.
The times are still the same. You're like, it takes longer. Like there's a rule, but there's not a.
We take we take longer. You don't see as many high school sweethearts right out of high school, I don't think.
I don't know.
As you used to.
Like I look at this generation. I talk to these kids. Even these kids, the idea of dating one person. I don't see that as much. They'll have a girlfriend for a little bit. In many circles, we're not dating. We're just kicking it.
Yeah.
Oh, we just,
they don't.
talk.
There's no commitment.
There's no commitment. We talk. Oh no, we aren't boyfriend and girlfriend. Well, you're doing what boyfriend and girlfriend does. No, we talk. No, we used to talk, but like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's and to your point about the increase in divorce, I think that kind of scares some people.
Mm-hmm.
When you see divorce on TV, and some people say when we experience divorce in real life, for a lot of men, I can understand why they want to pump the brakes on a divorce.
I mean, it's ugly.
It is ugly.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, we're not going to talk about divorce as we talk about your soon coming nuptials. I just want to say congratulations. Yes, friends with benefits is another thing that we have out there. And I really like the idea and the institution of marriage. I think it's a beautiful thing. And I love when folks are embarking on that step. So is there a date that is out there looming so we can come with helicopters? Because everybody wants to be part of your nuptials.
We're not putting it out there, but literally last night, I think we settled on a weekend.
Really?
That we're aiming for. Yep.
Okay. I just want you to know that I buy great wedding gifts.
Okay.
So if I happen to be on the guest list,
okay.
I love the idea of love, so I like to celebrate love by giving great gifts.
We're not going
I'm just
super
saying.
big on the wedding.
No,
we'll
why would you?
Yeah.
It's about the love. I think that's the most important thing. I think people fall in love with the idea of love and fall in love with the idea of getting the dress, getting the the big day, and all of that stuff, and the idea of working towards and investing in the relationship becomes secondary, and that's where I think the divorce begins to happen. So I'm glad that you and the missus, because she is a secret person, she doesn't like to be on her name talked about on the radio. We made that mistake once before. But congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
And proud for you.
I'm excited.
All right. So let's get into our conversation. We're talking about I wanted to really kind of lean into this conversation as we talk about conversations of race in America. We have been doing this thing where I've been kind of just sharing some of the questions that are out there that we hear, or things that people calling and complain about more so than anything else. But I will really, Mark brought up the idea of what he thought would be really interesting, and we've kind of toyed around it, but talking about family. Not only just family, but the importance of family, structure, dynamics. And we were really looking at that because the conversation went toward the idea of the wealth gap. But I want to just talk about family. Just share, Jonathan, when you talk about family, you look at your family, what are those things, when you think family, this is what family is to you?
It's a structure that holds itself up. Like each individual point is supporting another piece of the puzzle, and I don't know. I think it's an amazing thing to have when you've got a good one. And I think that that's something that we're kind of missing nowadays. And that's what I referred to last week when I'm like, you get 4 kids in a family, at least 2 of them are going to move away, and there's not going to be that local support structure quite as much. But no, it's great. Like over the weekend, my car broke down too.
Right.
And there was a replacement car that I could borrow from my grandparents in my driveway in like an hour.
Wow.
And I could have asked my aunt and uncle. I could ask my other aunt and uncle. I could ask my parents, even though they're a little bit further away. But there's that support, and there's that just what's the unconditional love that really just uplifts and holds everybody up together.
I love the way you said that. I actually kind of smiled when you said it. Because I agree with that. But I do want to say, Jonathan, the chat and social media is kind
I can't read it. It's all the way across the room
but Yvonne Daniels, who is one of our coworkers here, is actually brand content manager over at Sister Station. She's like, she is so happy for you. Congratulations. Your fiance seems like a lovely young lady. But he hides her from me and Mark, so we don't get to see her. But anyways, I'm sure she's a great person. No, I'm just joking.
You're just joking? She's not a great person?
No, she is. I'm sure she is a great person. But I do like the idea when you talked about your family. And I am a family person. I love family. Did you come from a big family, Jonathan?
Not huge.
Describe your family. Describe what your family is like. Because I think people listen to us and we have these conversations. And I think that our personal dynamics of family where we come from
and
are
I think
important.
they're very different.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. So growing up, my family, the matriarch was my great grandma, and so she had 2 daughters, and those were kind of the 2 branches of the family there. My grandma, her daughter, had 3 kids. My mom was the oldest, and then I've got an aunt and an uncle. They have their own spouses, and my aunt's got a couple kids. I'm the oldest grandchild by like 10 years.
Wow.
So there was a huge gap between me and the rest of the grandkids. But I've got a younger sister. I've got 2 first cousins, and nobody in the immediate family tree has more than like 3 kids.
Wow. Wow.
But when Grandma passed away a few years ago, I bought her house, and it's a family supporting family thing. We want that house to stay in the family, so my grandma's helping me out with it a little bit and making sure that I can get into that house and can keep it. There was another piece of property that went to the other side of that family, my aunt. But we're close. We don't. One thing that I like about my family is we're very close, but we don't get in each other's business.
Okay, it's better than my family. Go ahead.
But I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic.
It is interesting.
I like it
because you grew up a pastor's kid.
Yeah, and we moved around. And my one aunt, my mom's sister, moved immediately, basically after high school or college, and she's in Tennessee now. So she's the one that's far away, but everybody else is still pretty local.
It's interesting because culturally, they're very our upbringings were very different, but the structures were kind of similar in terms of the people that were around. Now, for me, I grew up in I was an only kid. I was an only child for 16 years before my parents lost their mind and had another kid.
I thought 10 years was a long time to be an only child.
They were more surprised than I was that they were having a kid, okay? But my mother was one of 10. So she came from a very big family. My grandfather was a Pentecostal pastor as well, so we grew up in the church. Those things were very similar. What was different is, so I've got 9 uncles and aunts just on my grandmother's side. I grew up in a single-parent home. My mom was a single mom for a long period of time. But what took place was, and I'm probably one of those last grouping of young people, young African-American men and women, who really had what I considered the concept of the village that surrounded. So I had an amazing stepfather who is dad. That's dad, right? He was a stepfather, but he was stepfather of the year. He's supported, supplied all of the needs. Every event that I had, he showed up. He was very present. What's that?
There's a Steve Harvey quote that I love.
What's that?
Anyone can be a father, but it takes a great man to be a dad.
He got to be a daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was a dad.
Yeah.
He was not my biological father, but he was an amazing dad. Now, there's a whole conversation that I could have with me and my stepbrothers on that, because I believe he showed up for me in ways that honestly I felt guilty to some degree. And you understand how the divorces and things of that happen, and the kids are hearing this, and we've seen it a million times where that father is super dad to his new wife's kids, and he's maybe lackluster as a dad. And so I grew up having this amazing father be my this amazing man be my dad, and he wasn't that for, and I was a bit.
He wasn't that for who?
For his biological kids. And I could see the difference, and I'm sure that they saw the difference, and it created a dynamic growing up as a kid where there was kind of like an underlying animosity between those relationships. And then when I got older, I got mad about it. Like, how can you be a great dad to me and not be a dad to you? You know what I mean? But now my brothers, they're not my stepbrothers. They are my brothers. We have the most amazing relationship. But I grew up with all of them in this space. And so you said you had 2 first cousins?
Yep.
Okay. I don't 32 first cousins.
Yeah.
There's a million
it's
of them.
Different.
Right? It is a lot different. I had uncles who were very present because my biological father was not a part of the equation. My grandfather, I grew up calling my grandfather Dad. I called him Daddy, is what I called him. And so that dynamic was very different. And people referred to it as a dysfunctional family for a long time. That's what they referred to those single parent households as dysfunctional families. But what I learned later, and I embrace as the type of family I grew up in, was that it was a family that functioned differently. I did not have a sense of loss. Yes, there was the issue of, who is my dad? I wonder who my dad is, that kind of thing. But I did not miss the love. I didn't miss the support. I didn't miss the community. Or the things that were necessary to really become the man I need to be.
I'm going to put something forward. We talk about the difference between these two. I wonder if that is part of kind of a misconception that, it's a single mother household. If it doesn't have that support structure around it, yeah, that could cause problems for upbringing of a kid. But I think it could lead to a misconception where people who don't have that support structure, who culturally, that's not a thing, that village isn't a thing, can look at that and go, that's dysfunctional, without understanding those other inputs.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And I think that cultural understanding about that makes a huge difference. I always said that I was a single parent kid, but I had cousins, so my cousins were my brothers and sisters. But to your point, what I learned was with that, many people would say your dad wasn't in your life, so therefore it was dysfunction. We function differently. And what I learned was that those relationships, I had men that were present. I had all of the things that would be necessary. The rites of passages parts were all fulfilled by uncles and older cousins, so that the young men that were growing up like me, we didn't miss those things. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be back with more of this conversation. United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem. We're back with more United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. Before the break, we were talking just about family structure. We do a lot of conversation and a lot of talking about different things, and I think that it's important sometimes to share kind of like what your history has been, because many times our ideals and perspectives are shaped by those things. Now I kind of want to change, and I want to go into what I believe Mark was throwing out last week when he was talking about the wealth gap, and we were talking about economics and structure of families and the growing divide in terms of the wealth gap between families of color, and I'll say black families, black folks and white families. And I think that right now, so in 2019, I think it was 2018, 2019, there was an increase. So it has not only, black growth has been, wealth been somewhat stagnant, but in many ways, white growth has outpaced it. And over the years from 2019 up till I think like 2022, there was a 39% increase in the wealth gap. We're talking about median families in terms of income. When you think about that or you hear that, what comes to mind, Jonathan?
Well, what we just talked about.
You said it, and I thought you said something I thought was interesting.
Well, it's what we just talked about, where single-parent households are more prevalent in black communities. Can we agree to that?
I would say, I don't know. I don't know what that number is.
Okay. Yeah. But I think that when we look at how our financial structure is set up, it favors married families. Like, you look at it, just solid financial advice is get married before you have kids and stay married. And that is much easier to build wealth just with how taxation goes, with how having dual income goes. Whereas we talk about the morals and the lessons and the having positive role models of the village. Well, financially, it's not structured that way. Financially, each household is still its own household.
But you know what's interesting? Because I think most people would think that what you just said would actually be the case. But in a study that I read, it's been maybe a year or so ago, they were looking at indicators and things that would change the wealth gap. And with Black America, two-family two household families didn't change the wealth. Single parent families, it didn't change the wealth. Education, we often say, you got to go to school and get an education. It did not impact the wealth gap. And so when we look at building wealth in America and we look at the stats that have been out there, and if someone's listening and you got something different to show me than what I saw, I think this was probably about a year ago, they looked at the factors of two-parent households versus single-parent households, education versus non-education, all of these different factors, and none of them impacted black wealth or the ability to grow wealth in the black communities. And I thought that was interesting.
So what did?
So what did make the greatest impact was what you said, and I thought it was interesting how you said it when you were talking about your family home. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about one of your grandparents passed.
My great-grandma passed away.
And so your grandparents were assisting you in obtaining and keeping that family in the home. And that was one of the greatest indicators for increase in wealth in most families. Middle-class America carries the majority of our wealth in our homes. So home ownership is such a key piece of that building of wealth and the transfer of wealth in a community. When we look at what you just expressed, it was powerful. Understanding what I've learned over the course of time, it's a powerful concept. You're 20 what?
Going to be 28 this month.
28, okay. That's interesting. I bought my first house when I was 28.
Okay.
Okay, so but you're 28, and we see that at 28, your family is putting in a situation and a structure for you to be able to purchase a family home. And that's super duper important because what I've also learned in black communities, many individuals who become homeowners, and even the first time homeowner, there usually may not be a transfer of that home to the next generation. Quite often homes are lost due to foreclosures, due to back taxes, all of these different things that prohibit the transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. And so I think that what is being modeled and what is being seen in your family is the key reason why it is important for black community and black homes and black families. If the individual cannot purchase or be prepared to take on that idea of home ownership, then it becomes necessary for grandparents and uncles and aunts to make that dream a reality.
I think it's important to separate the financial from the responsibility aspect.
What do you mean?
Like, would I be able, if I was just buying my house as it is on the market,
Yeah.
I could probably scrape by and afford it,
Yeah.
but I would not be living nearly as comfortably as with the arrangement that I have with my grandparents. But when I think it's important when you're saying things like that, no, it is not the grandparents' responsibility to pay for someone's house, especially if they're not going to be able to take care of it.
No. So
when
the word
you,
responsibility.
Yeah, when you say taking on home ownership, there's two parts of that. There's paying for the house, and there's being responsible for the house.
No, and I think that those things are very important. But I'm gonna push back just a little bit because when we look at where we are as a people, when we look at where Black America is, and that white wealth in America, we're outpaced by 6 times that. I think the median income for most black families was somewhere around $47,000. And I think for white America, it's somewhere like $240,000. So we're looking at almost a 6 times different. Go ahead.
I want to look at this generationally too.
Yeah.
Because we're running into a situation where your generation, home ownership means one thing. My generation, home ownership means something completely different.
What does it mean to your generation?
Getting into the home, being able to afford a home in my generation is...
It's dying.
It's a rare thing.
Uh-huh.
And you're right. That is a number one way to build wealth, especially kind of at my stage in life. But a lot of people can't. A lot of people end up renting. The housing market is being bought up by corporations and these private entities.
That's a whole conversation right there by itself. Yeah.
And it's happening in the city too. It's not just in the suburbs. It's everywhere. But I think when we're talking about home ownership, I think it's one thing to talk about it black and white families, but generationally it means something completely different.
All right, let's talk about it because you and I are from a different generation. Are you a part of Generation X?
I'm Gen Z.
You're Gen Z.
Early Gen Z.
All right,
yeah.
so right. That's what I meant, Gen Z. So I am a Gen X. In between us would be the millennials.
Millennials, yeah.
So I'm a lower end of the Generation X. But so Gen Z, Generation X, and millennials and Generation X.
Yep.
So you mentioned that there was a difference generationally in what it meant, and I'm going to ask you just, what do you think that home ownership would mean to my generation?
To your generation?
Yeah. What do you think it meant?
I think it's kind of expected.
Okay.
I don't think it was quite as much of a struggle, but I think a lot of people kind of got into their homes, and I haven't done a ton of research into 2008, but I think that kind of kneecapped a bunch of homeowners in your generation.
Yeah.
And they end up in situations where they're renting or they're having to basically start from square one on getting another home.
You're talking about the housing bubble.
Yes.
Of 2008.
2008.
Yeah, it was 2008. Actually, I purchased another home in 2008.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that I think is important, and this is where I think race and generational wealth and this idea of the wealth gap, there's an intersectionality between them. Because go ahead.
You asked me for the difference, so I'm going to just complete the thought real quick.
Ahead,
so for your generation, it's kind of expected. We're going to get married. We're going to buy a house,
right?
Or I'm going to go buy a house and then live my life. For my generation, almost, this is a little bit of hyperbole, but it's, if you can buy a house, you've made it. You're there. Like, that's it. You're set, kind of thing.
But that's the thing that I want to say, because my generation, that is the exact same thing. So there may be two generations or a generation in between us. We're two generations apart. But what you are now experiencing in today's society and market, and I think everybody is kind of in that place. Like, if you can get a home, you the man or you the woman, right? Is something that was pervasive in the black community for a very long time. Mm-hmm. When I look at my mom, who is a baby boomer, and I look at, and so between me and my mom, there's 20 years difference between my mother and I. But when I look at her and I look at when she became a homeowner, she worked for General Motors. I grew up and she rented for a long period of time, but she probably became a homeowner of a home. I remember 6th, 7th, 8th grade, she was renting. So probably in about 9th grade is when my mother became a homeowner, which is interesting because it was something that was a model. My grandfather built the house, so he was a carpenter, so he built the house and built my aunt's house. So I was aware that home ownership was important, or that it existed, but I didn't understand the importance of it until my mom was getting ready to buy her second home. And she did for me what your grandparents did for you. She made it available and possible for me to actually walk into that home. And so when I moved into the home, and for parents who are out there and grandparents who are listening, this is, I think, a great strategy for when we talk about building.
When we talk about family dynamics.
Yes, it's important. So what she did is she allowed me to rent from her for 2 years.
Were you able to build equity during that?
We were building equity during that period of time. Not only that, but I was creating and building a payment history.
Yep.
And I think that this is one of the things that we don't talk about. We just assume, oh, your parents are going to help you. But no, that 2 years of rental, because I didn't have a history, didn't have real credit. I was just out of college, had student loan debt. But that payment history for 2 years allowed me to position myself to then take that and say, hey, this is the house. My parents are trying to sell it to me. They weren't asking for anything out of it. just the fact that I don't want to be responsible for it, which is what you were saying. And so they positioned it. I was then able to take that 2-year payment history, use that as leverage as for me to be able to get qualified for a loan. And I'm happy because my very first loan, they did not have to co-sign on that particular home. And so that was an opportunity for me to then position myself to continue to build wealth. Now, that idea, that concept is something that is kind of foreign because, as I told you, for me, 2 generations prior to you, home ownership was kind of like what it is today. My family, and I say that, but I look at how my grandfather positioned his kids. He positioned them. He was a builder. So, I mean, I have one aunt. She needed a home. My grandfather didn't make her go get a loan. He just built a condo onto that home.
I want to ask, what's the attitude from one generation to the next? Is there that feeling in black communities of, we're going to make sure that you get off on the right foot? You're my kid, you're my grandkid, you're my niece, nephew. We're going to make sure that you're able to make this happen.
Well, that is the issue.
Well, because the thing that my grandparents were like is, we didn't get a whole lot of help, so we want to be that. We want to be helpful.
Okay, so that is the issue. Because I cannot expect a generation who is scraping and making life happen for themselves to have wherewithal. So when we talk about the inability or the inaccessibility of home ownership to black America, those are the things. My grandfather came up here, and if it were not for generous motors, as we often call it, and him being able to work as a factory worker to be able to amass dollars to build his first home, and he was a carpenter. The idea of home ownership would not existed for my grandfather. Had it not existed for my grandfather, it would not have existed for my eldest aunt, my Aunt Pat, who he built a 3-bedroom home onto the family home. And so these are dynamics that are really interesting, but he understood the importance of home ownership. When my Aunt Dot, who just passed away, was getting ready, he along with her husband, they built that home. And so they had skills and trades, which is one of the things I'm going to say that is very important for communities of color to get back to, because the idea of college, I can't come out and buy a house when I also now am swamped in debt because I was told this story that if I go to college and get an education, that was going to be the way. Now, I do believe that education is the great equalizer in many ways, but it has been proven statistically over time that it is not one of those equalizers as it relates to generational wealth.
Well, what are you getting educated in? That matters.
Well, it does matter.
So much.
It does matter. But we do, so there are, I have doctors and lawyers and engineers. So, I mean, those things are important. But the fact of the matter is the higher degree, the greater amount of debt that you're going to end up with. So those things are important. But I think that I want to kind of go back because when we look at what you are, and I don't want to oversimplify this because historically the problem has been access to the ability to own homes. And access to suitable financing. And so people don't realize when you're looking at something that is tens of thousands of dollars and you get to that 5-figure digit of home ownership, the interest rate plays a significant amount on if you can even afford a home. So credit, many families weren't allowed to get credit. And something that I grew up with that was crazy, but it was something that happened. Understanding finances, understanding credit, access to credit, grandparents having to put things into children's names in order to be able to afford it because they weren't allowed to have certain things. And so those things, you turn 18 and your credit's already messed up because there was a need for that from the family. And I think that these are ideas that are becoming more prevalent and understood by other nationalities, but these were very real things in Black America.
I want to ask, kind of going back to when you were explaining your family, you said that you were one of the last generations to grow up with that concept of the village.
Yeah.
So that's not quite there anymore, is what you're saying.
Well,
or not the same.
No, it's not, and it's one of the things that I talk about all the time. And I don't believe that the idea of the village is necessarily, let me shop, I'm going to turn, It is an economic conversation. I was going to not
It is.
necessarily tie.
Yeah.
It is a very economic conversation because what we also have to understand is that when we talk about black business and we talk about black economics, when white America spends they say you earn $1 in your community, that dollar reportedly turns over 7 times in your community before it exits your community to go somewhere else. Asian Americans, when they spend $1, that dollar cycles through their community 14 times before leaving their community and going otherwise. Black dollars, because we are consumers, that dollar does not turn over twice. If it does once in that community, that is amazing. But usually it doesn't even turn over once in that community before it goes to another community. So one of the things that I think is vitally important is the idea of buying within the village, the concept of buying from black business owners, the idea of really taking the time to look out and say, who's selling this? Because at the end of the day, if we can turn those dollars over, if I can take my dollar and I spend it with somebody who is selling products that I need in the black community, then guess what? I've not only empowered myself by getting what I need, but I've empowered another black business by giving them what they need. When we look at the fact that we are now, I think they're saying somewhere like it was 1.7 trillion for a bit. I think there's somewhere like almost $3.5 trillion that we're putting into the economy. America's economy does not work without the black dollar. But what black America has to understand is that we have to now look inward into that community and begin to turn that dollar over into our community. What does that mean? That means that we have to now look collectively, the idea of the village concept. So if I'm doing this, I'm not going to create, if I'm selling chicken wings, I'm not going to create another chicken wing business to be in competition with you, which is what we often do, because there's a whole concept of, man, there's a video. Did you get that video I sent you?
You send so many videos, Kareem.
Okay, there's a video. We'll talk about that one at another time about the idea of loss of identity when it comes to being a part of America. I am a black man who lives in America, and I love that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But understanding that we have to then turn those dollars over in our community. So if you're selling chicken, then I'm going to sell pork. If you're selling pork, then I'm going to sell veal. If you're a window maker, I'm not going to come and be a window maker. I'm going to be a carpenter. And so the idea of getting the diversity of those skills and those skill sets and those trades in our community and being able to buy from one another, because not only are we financially able, but we are also economically and educationally empowered to be able to do that.
Do you think there's awareness about the programs and grants and things that are out there specifically to help with developing that kind of thing? Because I look at Michigan Reconnect for education. That gets you a 2-year certificate for free if you're over 25.
Yeah.
I look at all the grants and stuff for black businesses. Is there awareness for that?
Well, this is the thing that's interesting with black business. There has long been you'll see this thing, hey, minority business.
Yeah.
And with those, much of that work does not necessarily, there's certain standards that are necessary that life and historical perspectives have kept blacks from being able to own. You asked me a question last week about immigrants in the country. That's one of the things that bred a sentiment between those two. You can use these things and we're not having access to those things. That's a whole nother conversation. But what I think is important that you brought up is that we've got to begin to be strategic about how we build business and the types of businesses we make available. This time goes by so fast. Jonathan, I can't wait till next week with more conversations of race in America. To everyone else, God bless you all. Grace and peace.